a really long time since I've sat down and did a movie review. I'm so sorry. I know that like a month ago, the last one I did was maybe it was a little over a month ago, almost 2 months ago. It was when I did Promising Young Woman in the US v. Billie Holiday for the Oscars, because those are two movies that I was really rooting for at the Oscars. So if you did not go watch that video, go and watch my review on that. I did say that I wanted to do a review on the movie Sightless, starring Madeleine Petsch. And I did film that, and then the video didn't work, and I didn't want to refilm it, and I've had a lot of other stuff going on, so I just decided that I will talk about it for a little bit. But the biggest portion of this movie review is going to be about the movie In the Heights that just released in theaters and on HBO Max. It is the movie version of the Lin Manuel Miranda Broadway show with the same name. So just quickly, I'll talk about Sightless and why I think that everyone should watch it. So, Sightless is a movie that released on Netflix, I want to say about 6 or so months ago. I watched it. I don't know if I watched it right when it came out, but it stars Madeleine Petsch, who plays Cheryl Blossom on Riverdale, and I really enjoyed this movie. Now, I won't put any spoilers about this movie in it, because I feel like it is one of those where I want you to get fully grasp it while you're watching it and get all the plot twists and turns that are in there. I really enjoyed it. I think that her acting in it was really, really well done. I've only seen maybe one other film that she was in, and it was like an okay film, so I really like that she branched off and did something different. The acting from all of the people in the film, I think it was phenomenal, and it was something that like every time I tell someone to watch it, they're like, oh my god, like that was a good movie. And I love a thriller, but I also love something that's like kind of like a mystery, and it really put all of that into one, and it was something that I think was just, like I said, really well done. So just a brief synopsis of the movie is that she is I believe she's a violin player, and she's like a musical prodigy, and she ends up getting blinded in an accident, like someone like throws something in her face or something, and so she like doesn't play anymore, and it's like her in like almost like in an assisted living type situation where she has like a male nurse, and there's a lot of twists and turns about like what's real and what isn't. And like, as someone who is almost seeing the movie, not seeing the movie through her eyes because obviously she's blind, but like going through the movie with the things that she's hearing, and based on like almost like her point of view in a sense, without being able to view anything, but you're going through it with the same mindset as she has, and then now like as it turns, like you kind of see like what's real and what's not, and it's actually really well done. So I definitely recommend that. So go watch Sightless. Now, to talk about the main movie that I have wanted to speak about for a while. So I did watch In the Heights about a week ago. I watched it on HBO Max because I'm still not going to movie theaters, and I really like that HBO Max is releasing all the Warner Brothers movies onto their platform. So I watched it. I have to say I was excited about In the Heights. I love Anthony Ramos. I've loved him in She's Got Habit. I liked him in Hamilton. You know, I love all of his work. Lin Manuel Miranda, I think musically has done a fantastic job when it comes to integrating not just like Hispanic people, but like Black people and other people of color into film and into really the arts. And I think that's something that has been lacking for a very long time. I'm actually going to do a video talking about representation in media and how, you know, growing up as someone who loved theater and who loved Broadway shows, unfortunately I don't have the voice, but like if I did, I definitely like would have tried to be more of like a musical theater kid, someone who loves drama and acting. I have to say that I love the way that he has integrated roles that are specifically for people, like people who are not white. To be frank, I think that that is something that has barely been needed, especially in doing shows. Well, In the Heights is more so a like a Latino type movie, just because of where it's based in New York, a very large like Dominican, Black Dominican population, or Afro-Latina population. So that movie itself is more so for that community, but anyone could watch it. But I do think that like what he did with Hamilton and having like historical figures, but it being played by people of color, I think that that was it was really interesting, and it was something that steps away from what we usually see in Broadway. I think that there are so many shows that are catered to white people and catered around white actors that you don't see the diversity. I mean, thinking back, like when I was younger, if you wanted to be in a show, you had like The Lion King, you had like Dreamgirls briefly when it decides to come back, you have like The Color Purple, very much sometimes struggle movies. So it was, if it wasn't like a black show, then you really didn't have that type of diversity. And there are people who were able to diversify other shows, definitely, especially when you had like a large following or like a big name. But if you weren't someone who was just starting out, like it really meant a lot to be able to have those shows, especially like August Wilson shows, things like Fences, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, like those shows that really skyrocketed careers of like getting Whoopi Goldberg, like an EGOT, Viola Davis, Denzel Washington, seeing those people on Broadway and being able to strengthen their careers there. I think that that's really important, and I love that he has really been integral in moving us in the right direction when it comes to representation and diversity, not just in television and film, but also on stage. I think that that is so important. So In the Heights is pretty much about Washington Heights, which is within the borough, I believe, the Bronx in New York. I have to say I don't know much about New York and the boroughs. I'm from Florida. I don't know. I have been in New York City once, and I do know that it is a very rich and diverse culture, especially rich with like Puerto Rican and like Dominican Black like culture in New York. It is a melting pot. And it really highlighted that within the film of like talking about the different ethnicities and nationalities within the Latino community that is represented there in the film. I really like that. I like the story too. I've never seen the full show, but I have seen like clips on YouTube. I believe it started like 2007, 2008-ish, and I remember watching it around like 2009, 2010. I know I was in high school, and I was like really into it. And I really enjoyed it. And I think that we'll talk about casting in a minute because there has been some conversation about that. But in regard to the story, I really enjoyed it. I really loved the opening number. I think it really set it up really well. I do think that some of the casting choices could have had stronger voices. And this is kind of someone who, I'm not a singer, but when I see these productions, I do think Anthony Ramos, I think he did a fantastic job. I think he's a phenomenal actor, singer, rapper. I think that he encompasses everything that I think Lin is looking for when it comes to his musicals, which is why he was the replacement of Lin, because Lin played Usnavi, obviously the title character, when the show was on Broadway, and then when he left, Anthony took over for him, and so it was kind of an obvious choice that he would be the star. And like I said, I've been looking forward to this film since it was supposed to come out of summer 2020. It got pushed back because of COVID, and so now I had this and also West Side Story that's going to come out, so I'm like really, really excited about it. So I watched it. I enjoyed the film. I love the story. I love the story of like Nina being the person who like made it out of the Heights, and coming back and talking about how when she went to the school she felt like there wasn't a sense of community. And I feel like a lot of people of color, especially Black and Latin or Hispanic people, feel when they go to especially predominantly white institutions, is that you see other people like you, but sometimes you don't have that same sense of community that you would have when you're back home and you have all of your friends and family. And that is something that it's hard to adjust to, especially when it comes to burnout too, of like working really hard and then you struggle when you get to school and you feel like you don't have that and you don't want to disappoint anyone. So I definitely understand like what she was saying when she was saying that she wanted that. I completely get it. I completely understand that, because as a Black woman who went to a predominantly white institution for undergrad and grad school, I definitely understand that there can be like that feeling of like, oh my God, do I belong? Like, is this right for me? And I could only imagine going to a school like Stanford. So I think that was a really interesting story to tell. I also really liked how it showed like the sacrifice that her family was making. Her talking about like, what if she had, if she had lived in Puerto Rico, like would her life have been different? Like would she view herself as being different if she had grown up there instead of growing up in New York and being like that first generation? I love the story about it talks about gentrification and how people are moving and how it affected the community and how people were kind of like down and out and weren't really feeling it anymore. Usnavi's whole story about wanting to go back to the Dominican Republic, on the beach and kind of live out the dream that his father had of having his his bar, like on the island. It talked about, like, it touched on illegal immigrants, and talking about how I forget his name, the boy who worked in the store, how the boy who worked in the store with him, his dad, who, first of all, I didn't know Mark Anthony was in this movie. I was really like, wait a minute, isn't that? But, and it's crazy because he didn't sing. Like, you're gonna have somebody who was like so big in like Latin music, and like he didn't sing. He was only in it for like 10 minutes. I was like, okay. I didn't know he was going to be in that, but it talks about how, you know, he wants to be able to go to college, and he can't go to college, or like he's scared because he can't get any federal aid, and, you know, it's expensive, and, you know, how's he going to be able to pay for it because, you know, he did come over illegally and he isn't a U.S. citizen, and helping Nina find her way of being like, this is what I can do. I can go fight for people and I can advocate for people. And I really like that. I like that she didn't give up, and that she found her calling and her purpose of being able, you know, her family has sacrificed a lot for her, and you don't really want that to go to waste. I feel like the story between her and Benny was kind of like, they had a song, but it was kind of like rushed. I don't think that it, like, his storyline was really cut down. It talks about the blackout, Vanessa and Usnavi, their relationship, how she wanted to be able to move, but she couldn't because she needed a co-signer, because they looked at her and they pretty much were discriminating against her, pretty much thought that, you know, she didn't have the income and she probably wasn't going to be able to pay her bills. So it was, you know, like an insurance policy. They needed somebody to co-sign with her, probably because of her credit and stuff. You know, she's working in the nail salon. She wants to be a fashion designer. And I like that she was able to find that inspiration from her community in her fashions. I also really liked how it wrapped up at the end, and how it was like he was telling the story and he was still like in his little bodega, like he wasn't, like he didn't have to go to the island, like he figured it out. I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. And then it showed like they had a kid, and I have to say that the little girl that they casted was perfect to play their child. I think that it was spot on. The Abuela Claudia, that was really sad for me, but I really wish that they showed that she was like the matriarch of the community, and then when she passes in the film, I feel as though I knew she was going to, because I had seen it on TikTok, but at the same time, I was like, I feel like they didn't show enough of what she did. And so spoiler, like I said, she passes, but then it's like, you know, there's like the whole number of talking about the 96,000, like who has a lottery ticket, and the fact that she had the lottery ticket, and then when Usnavi was cleaning out her place, he ends up finding the lottery ticket that she left for him so that she could go and that she could buy, so that he could, you know, have his bar and his restaurant and stuff, you know, in DR. And then he ends up using it for his cousin Sonny, I think his name is, for Sonny, and, you know, trying to get his citizenship, and then trying to put money away so that he could go to college. I really like that he did that. It was very selfless. And then, you know, in the end, seeing all of the things that they talked about, like, you know, in the story that he was telling to the children, I think that was really nice. Like I said, I think it was summed up very well. I do think that there were parts that were cut, obviously for time's sake, but I think that the movie was really well done. Now to get into the conversation that people have been talking about. I will say that cast, it was very much a paper bag test when it came to casting. Now, the one who plays Vanessa, I forget her, I think her name is Melissa. She plays Vanessa. I know her because she was on the show Vita on Stars, and the character that she played on Vita is very much the character that she played in this movie. I have found that sometimes people aren't typecasted, but the way that they act, their mannerisms, like their tone of voice, the way that they speak, the way that they enunciate, all of that tends to be the same, even if they move on from character to character. And it becomes hard to like discern them from, you know, their previous work and what you see them in now. And I know that she's gonna be in, they're doing a remake of like Carmen or something that she's been casted in. And I think she can sing, but I don't think she was a strong enough singer. I think Anthony Ramos is a very strong singer. And so I did not get that from really anyone else in the movie. He was definitely the strongest vocalist out of everyone that was there. I will say that like Dr. Polanco identifies as being Afro-Latina. The girl who played Nina identifies as being Afro-Latina. And I understand that Afro-Latina comes in various skin tones, shades, and ethnicities, nationalities. But the thing was, is like, and I know people said, well, Benny was black. Okay, Benny was black, but Benny wasn't meant to be Afro-Latino. He was always a black person. And then it's also the fact that they left out the storyline that, Nina and Benny dated, but Nina's family didn't like him because he was black. And it talks about like colorism, how there's like, in the diaspora, there's a little bit of, internal conflict when it comes to relationships between African Americans and non-African Americans, immigrants, and other people from other countries, the Caribbean, Africa, whatever. And so I feel like that was an important story to be told, especially being in a place that is so rich and diverse and has a large black community, how they felt that difference and that conflict. I thought that was the story that they should have told. Also, I do, like I said, I do agree that there was a bit of colorism in the film, because as someone who has looked at the Bronx, know people who are from there, know people who are from Washington Heights, it is very diverse and very diverse skin tones. I did not like the way that the director, John M. Chu, who did like Crazy Rich Asians, how he was like, oh, well, I have to be educated on it. I find it really difficult to believe that someone who identifies as a person of color is like, well, I didn't know that there were darker skinned Latinos. Like, that's wild to me. Because, and I even see it, not to go off topic, but I even see it like in Asian films, that like people who are like Filipino or like South Asian descent, that they are darker skinned, but you don't cast darker skinned Asian people, you just fairer skin. And I'm seeing that a lot when it comes to branching out, when it comes to films that are about all people of color, is that we tend to leave out the darker skin tone people. You are not going to have something that talks about the little Dominican Republic, an island that is very rich in history because of the slave trade, and you're going to sit here and tell me that an island that is about 75% people who look like me or are darker, that you did not know. And also the fact that Lin, knowing as a Puerto Rican man how there is a large black population within Puerto Rico and within the Caribbean and in so many Latin American countries, that he sat there and was like, he dropped the ball, or that he didn't know and that we need to do better. No, it's not need. You need to be doing better. And it's crazy to me, and it goes into this whole POC solidarity thing, and when it talks about how colorism and stuff is just swept under the rug. I also did not like how Rita Moreno had fixed her mouth to be like, oh my God, well, why can't you just wait? Wait for what? As someone who had to be literally put in brown face, painted darker for her role in West Side Story, and had to put on more of an accent, I think you would note the strides that we're taking to have proper representation for the Latin American community in the film industry, and for your almost 60 plus year career really being a white presenting Latina. It's crazy to me that she would say that. And obviously you see the people who are not affected by colorism, people who are white Latinos. I find it so incredibly not shocking, but just like hurtful, because I am not Latino, but I am black, and it's just the way that it is just pushed under, because I can only imagine the levels of racism and colorism that they have to deal with within their own communities, on top of having to deal with it from other people. It's just heartbreaking. So I really wish that they would have done more for representation. I really wish they would have done more. Honestly, in hindsight, there's nothing that you can do. They were like, well, there was dancers. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we're always in the background. We're always there for that type of labor. But I want to see people front and center. And, they even said I think her name is Melissa. And she was talking about how people showed up for the audition, but only the people who they picked could embody the roles. I was like, so you're going to sit here and tell me that this white presenting Mexican woman is the only person who could play this role of a Dominican woman living and raised in Washington Heights? That's what you're telling me? That no Afro-Latina woman, darker skinned woman could have played that role or embodied it? Come on. I really do think that they pick people based on name recognition. Anthony Ramos, like I said, he's a phenomenal actor, singer, dancer, but I do know that he got that role not because of nepotism, but in favoritism of the fact that he did take over the role in Broadway. He was in Hamilton. He works very closely with Lin, and that is why he got the role. I don't even think he auditioned for it, and he probably didn't have to. And if you're connected that way, then you obviously don't need to. But I will say that people brought up Jerome Jerome, who won the Emmy for When They See Us. I think that he would have been phenomenal. I've seen videos of him rapping and doing In the Heights and in the music and stuff from when he was at LaGuardia High School. And obviously he's a decent actor, more than decent to win that Emmy, really on one of his first roles. And I think that he's done very well. He is Dominican, he is Afro-Latino, and I think that he would have done a very good job. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. I mean, the movie's come out, so there's nothing that we can do about it. But I do think that it raises a lot of concerns about if we are going to be making these movies with so-called representation, who are we representing? Because if you're hiring people who can play white people in a film, you're not giving us representation. Yes, you can be like, oh yeah, they're playing this role, but they also played this. For example, a great example of this would be Ana de Armas. She was in Knives Out. She's a Cuban actress, white woman. She's a white woman, but she is Cuban. I think that we have to be able to differentiate between race, ethnicity, and nationality. A lot of people have trouble with that. Cuban woman, but she is white. She could play a white role. Prime example, she will be, Netflix is coming out with a film, she's playing Marilyn Monroe. Now, that's not to say that she can't do it. She does have a very thick accent, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. But she's playing Marilyn Monroe. She can moonlight as a white woman and play a white woman in film. Yes, if she's in a Latino cast, that you're saying, oh, that this is representation, but representation for whom? Because if you're looking for representation just for the thought of, oh my God, yes, that may be a black person, but they're white passing, that's not representation for me, because they're not presenting to society the same way that I present to society, or the same way that a lot of darker skinned indigenous or Afro-Latino people present into society, and how they are treated based on their skin tone, the way that they look, their features. They are not given that. So I find it's a difficult thing for people who haven't thought about it to grasp, but it is important that we have these conversations when it talks about representation. If you're going to represent the Latino community, you need to make sure you're representing all aspects of the Latino community. So I'm speaking to Rita Moreno and Lin and John M. Chu and all these people, and when you have all white casting directors and all white people behind it, and you say that you're so-called giving diversity and you want representation, you're not representing everyone, and it is apparent. There were so many people who had issues with the casting and everything that they had, and every time they were like, well, we need to be educated. You don't need to be educated. You just don't care. Because we've been educating you and we've been talking about it for years. This is not something that is new. It's not. If you're from New York and you say that you've been in New York your whole life and you grew up in these places and you write a show about it, there's no reason that you can tell me that you didn't know that all of those black people that are there that make up the majority of the population of the neighborhood, that for some reason when you make a movie about the neighborhood, that none of the people in the movie look like that. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. So like I said, I enjoyed the film. I think it was pretty well done. Like I said, the fight for color isn't something that I will speak up on. Like I said, I'm not Latin, I'm not Hispanic, so I'm not going to say it's not my fight. It will always be my fight, because I think that equal representation for everyone is important, and I think that all aspects of people's cultures and nationalities should be represented just for educational purposes, so that we're not misled. I think that you should be able to showcase all aspects of each country and cities and neighborhoods, and I think you should do it accurately. I don't think anyone should be left out, because it's not fair to them, and it makes it seem like you don't care about them and that they seem to be less than and don't add any value to the community, even though that these black people that you are leaving out are the reason why the community is so rich in culture. So I just think that they need to do better and need to be doing better. Like, it needs to be happening right now, and I hope to see that more in television and film and with Broadway shows. That's not to say that we're not moving in the wrong direction. I like that we are moving in the direction of having more diversity and representation, but I want to see more, and I want to see people doing more. And that doesn't just mean on camera, it means off camera. So if you're saying that you want a diverse cast, you want to do all these things, then the first thing that you need to be doing is hiring some people behind the scenes that will be able to see it, because other people aren't going to. They're not. So hopefully if he creates more films and does other things, then I hope that we will be able to see that a little bit more. So yes, I really enjoyed In the Heights. I like the music. I would watch it again, yeah. But probably not like right now. I have to say, I didn't like In the Heights as much as I like Hamilton. Like, if they made a Hamilton movie, I love Hamilton. But I do think I like the cinematography and everything was really good, but it will be competing against West Side Story, so we'll see how that goes. And that is a Steven Spielberg film, so we'll see how that ends up fighting out in next year's Oscars, because it definitely will, especially like two big musicals coming out, obviously. So yeah, the next movie review that I will be doing will be the movie Voyagers. I really enjoyed that movie. It has Lily Rose Depp in it, and it's the movie about like the kids going to space and like, you know, they're gonna like colonize a new planet, really. And I watched that and I really enjoyed it, so I will be making a movie on that. More videos will be coming. I'm gonna start uploading. You should be able to see videos on like Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, occasionally Saturdays or Sundays, but that would be more videos of me talking about news, stories, and content like that. But I do have a lot of content planned out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to come back and do more movie reviews. Obviously, like I said, right now I am not really going to the movies, so I'm doing reviews as movies come out on like Netflix, and I just pick one that I really enjoyed and then I'll talk about it. I'm not really going to the movie theater right now, just because I don't really know who's vaccinated, and you know, I have to go through and wipe off all the seats and stuff, and it's just a lot to do when I can just see the movies at home or on demand. So yes, I really enjoyed talking to you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.